When I was 16, my single mom passed away and my sister got the house and all the money. And I ended up with just a vintage ring. She laughed and said, "It's time you leave this house, Deadweight." During packing, I came across a letter from my mom that included directions leading me to a mansion. A mysterious man opened the gate, and upon seeing the ring, he said, "Finally." A shocking truth was revealed. Hey guys, it's Ruby here, 18, female. So my life hasn't exactly been a walk in the park. I lost my mom when I was just 16, and let me tell you, it was rough. She wasn't just my mom, she was my best friend, my confidant, my everything. We were super close, always hanging out, watching movies, baking cookies, all that good stuff. My older sister Ashley, on the other hand, was always closer to our dad. I don't remember much about him, to be honest. He passed away when I was pretty young, but I've got these vague memories of us all being a happy family once upon a time. Feels like a long time ago now. After Dad died, Ashley changed, like a lot. She went from being this fun, carefree big sister to, well, a cold-hearted person. I never really understood why. Maybe it was her way of dealing with the grief. I don't know. But it sucked, especially for me. I was just a kid, and I needed my big sister. Anyway, fast forward to when I was 16. That's when Mom got sick. Cancer. It was awful watching her waste away like that. I spent every moment I could with her, just sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, telling her about my day. Ashley, though, she barely visited. They used to fight a lot, so I guess she didn't feel the need to be there. Still, it hurt Mom. I could see it in her eyes. When Mom finally passed, I was devastated, like completely and utterly broken. Ashley, though, she barely shed a tear. I remember thinking how weird that was, but I was too caught up in my own grief to really process it. Then came the will reading. Now, I wasn't expecting much, I mean, I was still a minor and I figured everything would probably go into a trust for me or something. Ashley wasn't expecting much either. She always used to complain about how I was the golden child and how Mom favored me. But boy, were we in for a shock. The lawyer cleared his throat and started reading. To my eldest daughter, Ashley, I leave my house, all my savings, and my investments. I remember looking at Ashley, expecting to see surprise on her face, but nope. She just sat there, stone-faced like she'd known all along. Maybe it was the shock. Then the lawyer continued. And to my youngest daughter, Ruby, I leave my vintage ring. That's it. That's all I got. A freaking ring. I couldn't believe it. I mean, what the actual heck? I'd spent years taking care of Mom, being there for her, and all I got was a ring? While Ashley, who barely even visited her in the hospital, got everything else? I was hurt. I was confused, but most of all, I was angry. At Mom, at Ashley, at the whole damn world. It felt like a slap in the face, Like Mom was telling me I wasn't worth anything more than a stupid piece of jewelry. For a while there, I'll admit, I grew pretty resentful towards Mom. I couldn't understand why she'd abandoned me like that. I mean, she knew Ashley didn't like me. She knew I'd need help once she was gone. So why? Why leave me with nothing? I ended up staying with Ashley after that. Not that I had much choice. I was still underage after all. But let me tell you, those 2 years were hell. Ashley made it crystal clear that she didn't want me there. She'd make snide comments about how I was eating her food, using her electricity, and taking up space in her house. Like, geez, sis, it's not like I had anywhere else to go. The day I turned 18 was the day it all came to a head. I'd just gotten home from school thinking maybe we could celebrate or something. Stupid, I know. When Ashley cornered me in the kitchen. Well, 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 look who's finally an adult. Yeah, it's my birthday, remember? Oh, I remember all right. And you know what that means, don't you? I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew where this was going, but I hoped I was wrong. What are you talking about, Ash? It means it's time for you to leave this house, Deadweight. I'm not wasting any more of my inheritance money on you. What? But where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. You're 18 now. Time to fend for yourself like the rest of us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, I knew Ashley and I weren't close, but this? This was cold, even for her. Ashley, please, I don't have anywhere else to go. Can't I just stay a little longer until I find a job or something? God, you're pathetic. No wonder Mom only left you that stupid ring. She probably knew you'd never amount to anything. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Why do you hate me so much? What did I ever do to you? You existed. That's enough. We fought for a while after that. I begged, I pleaded. I even threatened to tell people how she was treating me. But in the end, I gave up. There was no reasoning with her. She'd made up her mind, and that was that. I ended up calling my friend Jasmine. She'd recently moved out of her parents' place and was renting a small apartment. When I explained the situation, she immediately offered to let me crash on her couch for a while. I swear I could have kissed her right then and there. So there I was, packing up my life into a couple of suitcases. 18 years, and this was all I had to show for it. A few clothes, some books, and that damn ring. I was about to zip up my last bag when I remembered my old winter coat hanging in the back of the closet. As I pulled it out, something fell from one of the pockets, a letter. I picked it up, curious, and nearly dropped it again when I saw the handwriting. It was Mom's. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope and started reading. My dearest Ruby, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone and you finally found the letter I hid in your coat. I'm sorry for all the pain and confusion you must be feeling right now. I know you probably don't understand why I left you only the ring in my will, but trust me when I say it's probably the most valuable thing I own. Remember all those times I talked about our winter adventures? How we'd go traveling as a family and I'd always bring up that coat I bought for you? I wasn't just being nostalgic, sweetheart. I was trying to give you a clue. Inside this letter, you'll find directions. They lead to a place that holds the answers to all your questions. Trust me, Ruby. Follow these directions and everything will make sense. I love you more than you could ever know. Stay strong, my little gem. Love always, Mom. I sat there on my bed, staring at the letter in disbelief. All this time, Mom had been trying to tell me something, and I, caught up in my own anger and hurt, and missed it completely. Suddenly, everything clicked. The coat, the stories, the ring. It all made sense now. I'd thought Mom was just being delusional because of her meds, but no. She'd been trying to give me a message all along. I looked at the directions she'd included. They led to some place I'd never heard of before. But you know what? At that point, I had nothing left to lose. I grabbed my phone, plugged the address into Google Maps, and to my surprise, it led to this huge mansion on the outskirts of town. And for a second, I thought there must be some mistake, but then I remembered this was Mom we were talking about. If anyone could leave me directions to a freaking mansion, it was her. I left most of my stuff at Jasmine's place, grabbed the ring and the letter, and set out to find this mystery mansion. The whole way there, my heart was pounding. What was I going to find? And who lived there? Was this all some elaborate prank? When I finally pulled up to the gates, I almost turned back. This place was intimidating as hell. All wrought iron and fancy stonework. But just as I was about to chicken out, I saw a man standing by the gate. He was wearing a suit and looked like he'd stepped right out of a British period drama. As I got out of the car, he looked at me with this intense gaze. Then his eyes landed on the ring on my finger and his whole demeanor changed. "Oh, you must be Miss Ruby. We've been expecting you. Please wait here a moment. Before I could even respond, he was speaking into some kind of intercom. A few minutes later, another man came out. This one was older, with gray hair and a kind face. When he saw me, or more specifically, when he saw the ring, his eyes lit up. Finally! We've been waiting for you, Miss Ruby. Please, come in. Thanks, but who are you and how do you know my name? Oh, where are my manners? I'm Constantine, your mother's old butler and friend. And as for how I know you, well, that's quite a long story. Why don't you come inside and we can explain everything? A butler? My mom had a butler? This was getting weirder by the second. But I followed Constantine into the mansion anyway. I mean, what did I have to lose at this point? And yes, looking back on it, I'm aware of how stupid it was to walk into a mansion all alone. In my defense, I did tell my friend Jasmine to call the cops if I wasn't home without an update. The inside of the mansion was even more impressive than the outside. Everything sparkled and shone, from the crystal chandeliers to the polished marble floors. I felt like I'd stepped into a different world. Constantine led me to a cozy sitting room and gestured for me to take a seat. Then he dropped a bombshell that nearly knocked me off my fancy velvet chair. Miss Ruby, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll just come out with it. Your mother, Taylor, came from British royalty. Her uncle was 15th in line for the throne. I'm sorry, what? My mom was royalty? Indeed she was, but she gave it all up when she married your father. Her parents, well, they didn't approve. They disowned her, cut her off completely. I sat there trying to process this information. My mom, the woman who used to burn cookies and sing off key to the radio, was actually some kind of princess? It seemed impossible. But if they disowned her, why am I here? Why did she send me to this place? Constantine's eyes softened and he leaned forward in his chair. Because they regretted it, Miss Ruby. Your grandparents, they regretted not having a relationship with their daughter or with their grandchildren. They wanted to make amends. But by the time they reached out, your mother was already ill. So what does this mean for me? It means, Miss Ruby, that with that ring on your finger, you are welcomed here with open arms. This is your family's home, and you are invited to stay as long as you wish. You are family, after all. I looked down at the ring on my finger, the ring I'd resented for so long. Suddenly, it didn't seem so worthless anymore. Over the next few hours, I met more family members than I could keep track of. Aunts, uncles, and cousins I never knew existed. They all welcomed me warmly, telling me stories about Mom and showing me old photos. As the day wore on, one of my aunts, I think her name was Margaret, pulled me aside. Ruby dear, we're so glad you're here. But what about your sister? Ashley, wasn't it? Why isn't she with you? For a moment, I thought about telling them everything. About how Ashley had treated me, how she'd kicked me out. But looking at their kind faces, so eager to welcome me into their family, I just couldn't do it. Oh, Ashley, she's busy with work and stuff. Couldn't make it. Margaret seemed to accept this, nodding sympathetically. Well, make sure to tell her she's welcome any time. We'd love to meet her too. I forced a smile and nodded, feeling a twinge of guilt. But hey, if Ashley didn't want anything to do with me, why should she get to be part of this? As the day turned to evening, Constantine showed me to a room. My room, he said. It was bigger than Ashley's entire house, I swear. Miss Ruby, I hope you'll be comfortable here. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything. We want you to feel at home. Thank you, Constantine. It's all so much. I don't know what to say. Constantine smiled, a twinkle in his eye. You don't need to say anything, Miss Ruby. You're family, and family takes care of its own. As he left, closing the door softly behind him, I flopped onto the massive four-poster bed. My head was spinning with everything that had happened. In the space of a day, I'd gone from homeless and alone to, well, to this. I held up my hand, looking at the ring that had started it all, Mom's ring. The ring I'd hated for so long, thinking it was worthless. Turns out it was the key to a whole new life. As I lay there, staring up at the ornate ceiling, I couldn't help but think about Ashley. Part of me wanted to call her, to rub it in her face, to show her that I wasn't the worthless deadweight that she thought I was. But then I thought about what Mom would do. She wouldn't want me to be petty or cruel, even if Ashley deserved it. No, she'd want me to be better than that. So instead, I closed my eyes and whispered a quiet, "Thank you," to Mom. Wherever she was, I hoped she could see me now. I hoped she knew that I finally understood. The next morning, I woke up thinking it had all been a dream, but nope. I was still in that enormous bed, in that enormous room, in that enormous mansion. It was all real. As I made my way downstairs, following the smell of bacon and coffee, I ran into Constantine. "Good morning, Miss Ruby. I trust you slept well." Like a rock. "This place it's incredible." Constantine smiled, looking pleased. "I'm glad to hear it. Now, why don't you join the family for breakfast? They're all eager to get to know you better." And so began my new life. Over the next few weeks, I got to know my long-lost family. They were all so kind, so welcoming. It was like they were trying to make up for lost time. I learned more about Mom's past, about the life she'd left behind. It was strange, hearing about this whole other side of her I never knew existed. But in a way, it made me feel closer to her than ever. One day, about a month after I'd arrived, my Aunt Margaret approached me again. "Ruby, dear, we've been thinking you're a bright young woman and we'd hate to see your potential go to waste. How would you feel about university?" "University? I don't know. I never really thought it was an option for me." "Well, it is now. We'd be more than happy to cover your tuition, room and board, everything. You could study anywhere you like." I was floored. This was more than I could have ever dreamed of. Wow, that's incredibly generous, but are you sure?" "Of course we're sure. Your family, Ruby. And family takes care of its own." There was that phrase again. Family takes care of its own. It was so different from what I was used to with Ashley. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I started to feel like I truly belonged. I enrolled in university, studying business and finance. I figured I should learn how to manage all this wealth I'd suddenly inherited. I made new friends and tried new things, and slowly but surely, I started to heal from all the hurt of the past few years. But there was still one thing nagging at me: Ashley. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't completely forget about her. She was still my sister after all. One day, about 6 months after I'd moved into the mansion, I decided to bite the bullet. I called her. The phone rang for what felt like forever, and just when I was about to hang up, thinking she wouldn't answer, I heard her voice. "Ruby, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me. Hi, Ash." "What do you want? I thought I made it clear I didn't want anything to do with you." Her words stung, but I pressed on. I know, but I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing." "I'm fine. Is that all?" I took a deep breath. This was harder than I thought it would be. "Actually, no, there's something I need to tell you about Mom and our family." "What are you talking about?" So I told her everything about the letter, the mansion, our royal heritage. As I spoke, the line went quiet, and for a moment I thought she might have hung up. "Ash, you still there? You expect me to believe all that? That we're some kind of secret royalty?" "It's true, I swear. Look, why don't you come and visit, see for yourself?" There was a long pause, and then, "No, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Ruby, but I want no part of it. Don't call me again." And with that, she hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, feeling a mix of disappointment and relief. I tried, right? That's what mattered. As the months passed, I threw myself into my studies and my new life. Jasmine was also a constant presence in the mansion. Life was getting good. I learned about etiquette and family history, about managing estates and investments. It was a lot to take in, but I was determined to make the most of this second chance I'd been given. One day, about a year after I'd first arrived at the mansion, Constantine pulled me aside. Miss Ruby, there's something I've been meaning to discuss with you. What is it, Constantine? It's about your mother's estate. You see, while the bulk of her assets were left to your sister, there was a separate trust set up in your name, one that could only be accessed once you turned 18 and came into possession of the ring. I felt my heart skip a beat. What are you saying? I'm saying, Miss Ruby, that you are now the owner of a considerable fortune. Your mother made sure you would be taken care of, even if it didn't seem like it at first. I sat down hard, my head spinning, and all this time I thought Mom had abandoned me. But she'd been looking out for me all along. But why all the secrecy? Why not just tell me? Constantine smiled softly. Your mother was a wise woman, Miss Ruby. She knew that money and power can change people, not always for the better. She wanted to make sure you grew into your own person without the weight of all this hanging over you. It made sense, in a way. Mom had always been big on life lessons and personal growth. This was just her final, most elaborate lesson. As I sat there processing this new information, I couldn't help but think about Ashley. She had no idea about any of this. Part of me wanted to call her again, to tell her everything, but I remembered her words from our last conversation. She didn't want to hear from me. So instead, I focused on my new life. I threw myself into my studies, the foundation work, and just living, you know. It was like I was finally able to breathe after years of feeling suffocated. One day, I was having coffee with Jasmine. We'd stayed close even after I moved into the mansion. She was one of the few people who knew the whole story, and I valued her friendship more than ever. Ruby, I gotta say, it's amazing to see how far you've come. You're like a whole new person. Thanks, Jazz. I couldn't have done it without you, though. You were there for me when I had nothing. Jasmine waved her hand dismissively. Oh, please, you don't owe me anything. I'm just glad things worked out for you. You deserve it, after everything you've been through. Still, I want to do something for you. Maybe I could help with your rent or... Jasmine cut me off, her expression serious. Ruby, listen to me. You don't owe me or anyone else a damn thing. This is your life now. You're better off enjoying it all by yourself. Don't let anyone, including me, make you feel guilty for your success. Her words hit me hard. She was right, of course. I'd spent so much of my life feeling like a burden, like I owed everyone something just for existing. But not anymore. You're right, Jazz. Thanks for being such a good friend. Jasmine grinned and raised her coffee cup. That's what I'm here for. Now, tell me more about this cute guy in your econ class. After that conversation with Jasmine, I decided to really embrace my new life. I mean, why not? I was young, I had resources, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have anyone holding me back. So I started living my best life. I created an Instagram account and started sharing my adventures. At first, it was just little things. Photos of the mansion gardens, selfies in my university library, that kind of stuff. But as I got more confident, I started branching out. I traveled during school breaks, visiting places I'd only ever dreamed of. Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, you name it, I went there. And of course, I documented it all on the gram. My feed was popping off, guys. Pictures of me sipping coffee in cute Parisian cafes, posing in front of the Sydney Opera House, exploring ancient temples in Kyoto. I was living the life and I wasn't afraid to show it. But it wasn't all just fun and games. I was working hard in school too. I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of this opportunity. I joined study groups, took on extra projects, and even started a little tutoring gig on the side. My grades were top notch, and I was loving every minute of it. One day, as I was waiting for my latte at the campus coffee shop, I overheard some girls talking. Did you see Ruby's latest post? She's in Bali now. God, I wish I had her life. I know, right? It's like she won the lottery or something. How does she afford all this? I couldn't help but smile to myself. If only they knew the half of it. But I kept my head down, grabbed my coffee, and headed to class. I didn't need everyone to know my business. As my follower count grew, so did my confidence. I started doing more fashion posts, showing off the designer clothes that my newfound family had gifted me. I shared snippets of the charity events I attended, the galas, the fundraisers. It was a whole new world, and I was loving every second of it. But you know what they say, mo money, mo problems. And boy, did I have a problem coming my way. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon. I was lounging by the pool, working on a paper for my international business class, when my phone started blowing up. At first, I ignored it. I was in the zone, you know, but when it wouldn't stop, I finally picked it up. My heart dropped when I saw the name on the screen. Ashley. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello? Ruby, finally, I've been trying to reach you for days. Her voice was shrill, almost panicky. It was so unlike the cool, collected Ashley I remembered. What do you want, Ashley? What do I want? I want to know what the hell's going on. Where are you getting all this money from? The trips, the clothes, the parties? Where is all this coming from? I felt a cold anger settle in my stomach after all this time. This is what she wanted to talk about. Why do you care? You made it pretty clear you wanted nothing to do with me. That was before. Things are different now. I'm your sister, Ruby. We're family. We should be sharing things like this. I almost laughed out loud. Family? Now she wanted to play the family card? Family, that's rich coming from you. Where was this family talk when you kicked me out on my 18th birthday? Where was it when I needed a place to stay or help with college applications? That was different. I was going through a lot then, but I've changed, Ruby. I want to make things right. But I wasn't buying it. I knew Ashley. She didn't care about making things right. She just wanted a piece of the pie. You know what, Ashley? I don't owe you any explanations. My life is my business. Stay out of it. And with that, I hung up. Then, for good measure, I blocked her number. It felt liberating, but Ashley wasn't one to give up easily. Over the next few weeks, she tried everything to get in touch with me. She called from different numbers, sent emails, even tried to reach out through my Instagram with multiple accounts, and got her friends to harass me too. It got to the point where I had to get a new phone number. It was a hassle, but it was worth it for the peace of mind. One day, as I was updating my contacts with my new number, Jasmine called. Hey, Rubes, how you holding up? I'm okay, just tired of all this drama with Ashley. Yeah, I heard she's been trying to get in touch. You going to talk to her? I sighed, flopping back on my bed. Honestly, I'm not interested in rekindling any love, friendship, or sisterhood. She had her chance, you know, multiple chances actually. I'm done. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. I get it, Ruby. And for what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. You don't need that negativity in your life. Thanks, Jazz. I'm tired of always being the one to extend the olive branch, you know. I'm tired of being the bigger person. For once, I just want to live my life without worrying about her. And you should. You've worked hard for everything you have now. You deserve to enjoy it without any guilt. After I hung up with Jasmine, I sat there for a while just thinking. It was strange, you know. For so long, Ashley had been this looming presence in my life. Even when she wasn't physically there, the memory of her cruelty and her indifference had shaped so much of who I was. But now, Now I was free. Free to be who I wanted to be and to do what I wanted to do without her shadow hanging over me. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram. I scrolled through my feed looking at all the moments I'd shared over the past few months. The smiling faces of the kids we'd helped through the foundation, the beautiful places I'd visited, the friends I'd made. This was my life now, and it was a good one. I opened up a new post and started typing. Life's too short to hold on to negativity. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let go and move forward. Here's to new beginnings and bright futures. Best life ever. No regrets. I hit the post and smiled to myself. Yeah, this was my life now, and I was loving every minute of it. The next few months flew by in a whirlwind of classes, foundation work, and yes, more travel. I was busier than ever, but I was happier than I'd ever been. One day, as I was packing for a trip to Greece, spring break, baby, Constantine knocked on my door. "Miss Ruby, there's someone here to see you." I froze, my hand halfway to my suitcase. For a split second, I thought it might be Ashley. Had she found out where I lived? "Who is it?" "It's a young woman. She says her name is Margaret and that she's from the foster care system." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Not Ashley, thank God. "Oh, okay, I'll be right down." I made my way to the sitting room where a young woman was perched nervously on the edge of one of our antique sofas. She couldn't have been more than 18 or 19. "Hi, I'm Ruby. Constantine said you wanted to see me." The girl stood up quickly, almost knocking over her tea in the process. "Yes. Hi, I'm Margaret. I wanted to thank you personally." I tilted my head, confused. "Thank me for what?" "For the scholarship. I got into college because of you, because of your foundation." And suddenly it all clicked. This was why we did what we did. This was what it was all about. We talked for hours, and Margaret told me about her life in the foster system, about how she'd never thought college was a possibility for her. She shared her dreams of becoming a social worker and of helping kids like her. As I listened to her, I felt this warmth spreading through my chest. This was it. This was what Mom had wanted for me. Not just the money or the fancy house, but the ability to make a real difference in people's lives. After Margaret left, I sat in the garden for a long time, just thinking. I thought about Mom, about the life she'd left behind and the one she'd built for us. I thought about Ashley and how different our paths had turned out to be. And I thought about myself, about the scared, angry girl I'd been and the woman I was becoming. As the sun started to set, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and opened up my contacts, and my finger hovered over Ashley's name for a moment before I hit delete. It was time to let go of the past for good. I had a whole life ahead of me, filled with possibilities and opportunities to help others. I didn't need to carry the weight of old hurts and resentments anymore.